I get mad when I see you looking like you drugging and thugging.
That was Boosie coming straight for Kodak after a wild viral clip had the internet buzzing. Kodak ended up looking shaky on stage and people noticed right away. There's already been tension between these two rappers for a while, so when Boosie saw the moment, he jumped on it fast and started clowning him heavy. But Kodak wasn't about to sit back and let that slide quietly. Now he's firing back and the whole situation is getting messy real quick. Here's how it all started. The clapback that had the whole internet talking. On February 23rd, 2026, a video started spreading online showing Kodak Black performing on stage in Texas, and something looked off right away. He was wobbling around and struggling to stay steady. At one point, his own crew had to grab him just to keep him from falling over in front of the crowd. And if that wasn't enough, people were already upset because he showed up 9 hours late to the show. 9 whole hours. Fans in the crowd were recording everything, and those clips spread across social media like crazy. The comment sections blew up instantly. Some fans sounded worried, others were laughing and clowning him, and a lot of people were saying he seriously needed help. Kodak's team tried to calm things down, claiming it was just a bad camera angle, but by then, the internet had already made its decision. Then the very next day, February 24th, 2026, Boosie Badazz jumped on Instagram and dropped just 2 words, "Dude need help." FRFR. That was the entire post. No long caption, no explanation, nothing. But everybody knew exactly who he was talking about. The comments exploded, blogs picked it up immediately, and fans started choosing sides before the day was even halfway over. And Boosie didn't stop there either. He soon jumped on IG Live and started breaking the whole thing down.
Hey, bitch, you need to get in the gym, Kodak. Bitch, you ducking all on stage. You ducking. You finna fall out on stage.
Those words cut deep, no question about it. Even Boosie later admitted he might have come a little too hard with what he said.
Anything I say, I stand on it. You should know that, bro. I kind of went too hard on you, bro. That's me, man. I was mad at you. I was mad at you.
But here's the thing, Aki, he still wasn't taking any of it back. In his mind, he spoke how he felt and he stood on it. Boosie explained that seeing Kodak in that moment had him tight, but not because of some personal beef and not because he was trying to chase clout online. He said it hit him different because he actually looks at Kodak as one of the leaders of the new generation in rap. In his words, he said he sees a lot of himself in Kodak, and when you see someone who reminds you of yourself moving wild in public like that, it hits on a whole other level. But Kodak was hearing all the talk too. The streets were buzzing, the blogs were posting, and he was keeping track of everything being said. Then on March 7th, 2026, Kodak decided he was done sitting on the sidelines watching all this play out. He jumped straight into Boosie's IG Live uninvited right in the middle of the stream and got straight to the point. Kodak wanted an apology. He made it clear he wanted Boosie to publicly take back what he said, and there was no friendly energy behind it at all.
Yeah, y'all don't even know what's going on, so why y'all speaking on y'all don't know?
His message was simple. You don't know what's really going on in my world. You don't have the full picture. Kodak basically came with one question. If you don't know what's really happening in my life, then why are you on that internet putting my business out there for everybody to pick apart?
You snitching. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of...
During the exchange, Kodak even threw the S word at Boosie. In the streets and in hip-hop culture, that word carries serious weight. He wasn't just calling Boosie nosy. What he was really saying was, you crossed a line by speaking on my personal struggles in front of the whole world. That kind of accusation isn't small either. In real life, moves like that can get people cut off quick. And Kodak made sure to put Boosie on notice about it right there on his own live stream.
Stop playing with me on this internet. I swear to God.
But Boosie wasn't rattled at all. This is somebody who's been through serious life battles, from major legals, troubles to health scares and everything in between. A surprise jump into his IG Live wasn't about to make him fold. Boosie fired right back the same night and shut down the apology request immediately.
And I ain't gotta clean my face for nobody, Kodak, bro. I'm a gangster. Like, bro, I don't gotta clean my face for nobody.
He made it clear he wasn't backing off what he said. Boosie was standing on business with zero hesitation. He made it clear he said what he said and meant every word of it. No surprise jump into his live stream was going to make him switch up or walk anything back. That whole moment, Kodak pulling up uninvited and Boosie refusing to move an inch, is when the culture really locked in. At that point, it stopped being simple internet chatter. Now it felt like a live face-off between two rappers with real history behind them, and that history goes back years. This wasn't just about one viral video from a shaky performance in Texas. The tension had been building way before that clip ever hit the internet. To really understand why that IG live moment felt so intense, you have to rewind the story back to 2023. That's when one collaboration between them shifted everything and changed the way these two artists started looking at each other. After the live stream situation, Boosie even posted another follow-up video where he doubled down on his stance. According to him, Kodak was the one keeping the whole situation alive by continuing to bring it up.
I get mad when I see you looking like you drugging and thugging.
Boosie made it clear he wasn't trying to counsel anybody or play therapist for another grown man. He said what he had to say and kept it moving. In his eyes, Kodak was the one who circled back and turned it into a whole situation. That was Boosie's final stance on it. His message was simple: I spoke my piece and moved on. You the one still holding on to it. But the real roots of this tension go way back. If you want to understand why Boosie came down so hard on Kodak in February 2026, you have to rewind the story all the way back to July 2023. That's when Kodak Black dropped the track Shaka Laka, featuring Tekashi 6ix9ine. That one decision blew the relationship wide open and placed both rappers on completely different sides of a line that still hasn't moved since. 6ix9ine has been one of the most controversial names in rap for years. Back in 2019, when federal prosecutors charged him in a major racketeering case, he decided to cooperate with authorities and testified against people connected to his crew. In street culture and a lot of hip-hop circles, especially among many southern rappers, that kind of move is viewed as the ultimate betrayal. For many artists who built their image around loyalty and street codes, cooperating with the government is seen as crossing a line that you simply do not cross. And Boosie is someone who built his entire reputation on living by that code. He's talked many times about standing firm during his own legal battles rather than turning on others. So when Kodak, someone Boosie had personally reached out to, worked with, and even said, reminded him of his younger self, jumped on a song with one of the most controversial figures in rap history, it hit different for him. Boosie took it personally. To him, it felt like a serious break in the principles he believes in. So on July 20th, 2023, he jumped on Instagram Live and spoke about it directly, and he didn't hold back either. Boosie looked into the camera and said straight up that Yak messed him up. That moment right there is where the tension between them really started heating up. Boosie didn't soften his words at all. He straight up called Kodak a rat lover. In his view, you can't stand next to someone like 6ix9ine and still keep your credibility solid in the streets. That's how serious he felt about it. He even went further and said he wished he could remove his own verse from Rocket Man, the track he had done with Kodak before all this drama started. That part hit heavy, because at that point, Boosie wasn't just clowning Kodak online anymore. He was basically saying he regretted ever being connected to him in the first place. That's a whole different level of disappointment. It sounded like a man saying the bond they once had now felt like a stain on his name. Kodak wasn't staying quiet though. He pushed back in his own way. At one point he reposted a fan defending him, someone who called Boosie's reaction childish and stuck in outdated street politics. Then during interviews, Kodak started explaining his side of the situation the way only he can.
Basically, like, look at it in a sense, like the whole snitching shit or whatever type time. Like, man, bro, don't do that. That's what you want to do it.
He admitted that plenty of people warned him not to do the song, but then he revealed the real reason he did it anyway, and his answer had people talking even more.
I mean, all the road to do a song with who, like, I don't even know the nigga he told on, and I ain't even from over there.
Kodak later explained it plain and simple. He said the verse cost $1 million, one verse, 1/16, and in his mind, the people involved in that situation were not people he personally knew. They were not his day one friends. They were not from his neighborhood. So in his eyes, the street code people kept talking about didn't apply to him the same way. To Kodak, it was strictly business. A huge check was on the table. The deal made sense, and he wasn't about to apologize for recognizing the value of that kind of money. From his perspective, he just made a smart move and secured the bag. But when Boosie heard that explanation, it didn't calm things down at all. If anything, it made the whole situation even worse. Boosie felt like that $1 million verse proved exactly what he feared. In his eyes, Kodak had chosen money over loyalty and respect. Boosie started speaking on it even more after that. He said your words and your actions matter, especially when the whole community is watching, and according to him, Kodak had just shown everybody exactly where his priorities were. What made the whole situation hurt even deeper was the history these two actually shared. Before the fame got bigger and before the tension started making noise online, Kodak really looked up to Boosie like an OG in the game. Kodak said it himself in past interviews. He talked about how Boosie reached out during his early days in music. Boosie told him he had been riding around Baton Rouge listening to Kodak's mixtape and really respected his sound. At one point, Boosie even tried to sign him. The reported deal was around $10,000 back then. Kodak ended up turning it down, but there was still mutual respect between them at the time. Two artists from the South, both coming from tough situations, both trying to build something major out of nothing. That's why the whole 6ix9ine situation hit so hard. This wasn't some random rapper catching criticism from a stranger online. This was Kodak, someone Boosie had personally supported and believed in early on. So when Kodak made that move publicly, Boosie felt like it went directly against everything he had stood for and preached over the years. From that point forward, Boosie started speaking on Kodak's career in a completely different tone. He openly said he felt Kodak had been sliding downhill ever since that moment, and he didn't even say it like a joke or a diss. The way he put it sounded more like a blunt diagnosis. As time went on, people thought the tension between them had cooled off. The blogs stopped posting about it, the internet moved on to other drama, and the headlines faded away. But behind the scenes, that issue between these two never really disappeared. Then on January 7th, 2026, Kodak decided to turn the volume all the way back up again. He dropped a track called Christmas Eve. The title might sound festive, but the song itself was anything but cheerful. The record came wrapped like a gift, but the lyrics inside were aimed straight at Boosie with zero confusion about who he was talking about. Kodak rapped, that lame Nick Boosie looking down on a young nigga getting Skrilla. I used to look up to Boosie. He hate I got more bread, that old head stupid. You don't even move like a OG couldn't sign me, you got cold. Yeah, you know me. Every line felt sharp and calculated. He threw out accusations of jealousy, compared money, and even brought up the old story about Boosie trying to sign him years earlier and missing the opportunity. That track instantly brought all the old tension right back to the surface. Kodak wasn't just venting on that track. He was building a whole case in the lyrics, laying everything out for the culture to hear. It sounded like he was putting receipts on wax and letting the audience judge the situation for themselves. And the timing of that release, that timing was no coincidence. The track landed on streaming platforms just one day before Boosie's scheduled court appearance on January 8th, 2026, tied to federal firearm charges he was facing in San Diego. That kind of timing doesn't happen by accident. Kodak clearly knew exactly what he was doing. Dropping a diss record the night before someone's federal court date is a calculated move. That's strategy, that's pressure, and Boosie noticed it immediately. Even with serious legal business waiting for him the next morning, Boosie didn't stay quiet. He jumped straight onto X and started firing off posts right away. He accused Kodak of chasing attention and called the move desperate. Boosie basically said, "You waited until the night before my court date to drop a weak diss record." In one of the posts, he wrote something close to, "You wait until the day before I go to court to drop a weak diss song. You know what I got going on and you do this the day before court." 100% clown behavior. Boosie also made it clear he wasn't impressed with the song itself. He called the track weak and said Kodak's run in the game was already finished. Then he flipped the conversation around and started questioning Kodak's relevance. Boosie asked the internet when the last time anyone even requested a Kodak song was. His point was simple and direct. According to him, Kodak was the one bringing his name up just to stay in the spotlight. In Boosie's mind, he didn't need the drama to stay relevant. He was already established. Kodak, on the other hand, needed the attention. As expected, the internet split right down the middle almost instantly. Some fans stood firmly behind Boosie, posting comments like, "Boosie spoke the truth, nothing but respect for that," while others felt Kodak had every right to fire back after everything that had been said about him. But not everyone was rocking with Boosie. Plenty of fans jumped online and started defending Kodak right away. Some people were saying things like, "We listen to Kodak every day, take that L, Grandpa." The comments quickly turned into a full-on battle between generations. You could see the divide clear as day. On one side were the old heads who stood behind Boosie and the street code he represents. On the other side were the younger fans who respected Kodak's mindset, about securing the bag no matter what. That clash opened up a bigger conversation that hip-hop has been arguing about for years. What really matters more, staying loyal to an unwritten code, or chasing opportunity and getting to the money by any means? Boosie's entire reputation has been built around the first answer: loyalty, respect, and the rules he believes the streets should follow. Kodak, on the other hand, has always moved more like a businessman. If the opportunity is big enough, he's going to take it. And the truth is, neither side is completely wrong, but neither side is completely right either. That's exactly why this conflict between them refuses to die down. While all this drama was happening online, Boosie was also dealing with serious real-life pressure. For nearly 3 years, he had been dealing with a federal firearm case tied to a 2023 traffic stop in San Diego, where 2 loaded handguns were reportedly discovered. The case had already been through multiple twists. At one point, it was dismissed after a ruling went in his favor, but prosecutors appealed the decision and the charges came back again. It turned into a long legal roller coaster. Then everything finally wrapped up on January 9th, 2026, just one day after Kodak's Christmas Eve track dropped. Boosie accepted a plea deal and received time served, along with 3 years of supervised release, a $50,000 fine, and 300 hours of community service. He walked out of that courtroom with his freedom intact, but the timing still stood out. Kodak had released that diss record the night before one of the most important moments in Boosie's legal battle. That bold timing only made Boosie push back even harder. Now both rappers were accusing each other of chasing attention and using the drama for clout, while at the same time both of them kept the situation alive by staying ready to respond. This situation between Kodak and Boosie was never just about rap music. To really understand what went down during that heated IG Live in March 2026, you have to look at the heavy history both of these men carry behind them. Both Kodak and Boosie have been through years of serious struggles long before diss tracks and viral clips ever entered the picture. Their lives have been shaped by legal battles, street pressure, and personal challenges that most people never experience. So when they clash publicly, it hits deeper than a typical hip-hop argument. Their pasts aren't just background details. Those experiences are the foundation for why this confrontation felt so intense to so many people watching. Kodak Black, born Bilkahan Capri on June 11, 1997 in Pompano Beach, Florida, has faced legal trouble since he was extremely young. Reports say his first arrest happened when he was just 12 years old, involving accusations like auto theft and breaking and entering. He grew up in Golden Acres, a public housing area in Pompano Beach where many families were struggling to make ends meet. The neighborhood was filled with people from different backgrounds, including Haitian, African American, and Puerto Rican communities, all trying to survive in tough economic conditions. Kodak's mother, who immigrated from Haiti, raised him on her own after his father left early in his life. She worked multiple jobs just to keep things afloat and provide for her family. But outside the home, the streets often had a powerful influence on the environment he was growing up in. As Kodak got older, the legal problems around him didn't disappear. In July 2022, police in Broward County stopped him during a traffic stop. Authorities reported finding 31 oxycodone pills along with more than $74,000 in cash inside the vehicle. That situation led to a trafficking charge, a serious felony that carried the possibility of decades in prison if convicted. Kodak was later able to post bond and continue fighting the case while staying out of custody. Then things tightened up again in February 2023. Authorities said Kodak broke the conditions of his bail after missing a required test, and a later report stated he tested positive for fentanyl. Once that happened, a warrant was issued and the pressure from the legal system started building again, fast. Around that same time, Kodak jumped on Instagram Live and started addressing the rumors himself.
Hell no, they don't even LSD. Say y'all people that who be on that, y'all be on all type.
The blogs were running headlines and people online were speculating about everything going on in his life. Kodak clearly felt the need to speak directly to the public. While defending himself, he pushed back hard against the narrative people were building about him. But during that live session, he also said something that caught a lot of attention.
Everybody got a vice some kind of way. Everybody got some kind of vice, even if it ain't drug, homie.
Kodak basically argued that people were singling him out unfairly. His message sounded something like, "Everybody out here dealing with something, so stop acting like I'm the only one moving wrong." It wasn't a full admission and it wasn't a complete denial either. It was classic Kodak, being blunt and honest in his own way, while still leaving part of the story unclear. Then in December 2023, another incident made headlines. Police reportedly found Kodak slumped behind the wheel of a Bentley that was blocking traffic. Officers also reported seeing a white powdery substance around his mouth, which later field tested positive for cocaine. Kodak later said the substance involved in that situation was actually oxycodone from a prescription he had. After everything was reviewed, a judge eventually dismissed the possession charge once the prescription was confirmed to be legitimate. But by that point, the image had already traveled everywhere online. Once a moment like that goes viral, it sticks in people's minds whether you like it or not. That snapshot quickly became part of Kodak's public story. His history with firearms has also followed him for years. Back in May 2019, Kodak was charged after authorities said he provided false information on federal forms while attempting to purchase firearms. That case led to a 46-month federal prison sentence. He ended up serving roughly half of that sentence before receiving a presidential commutation in January 2021. That decision allowed him to return home earlier than expected, but it also came with conditions he had to follow, and those conditions later became another issue. Reports said those restrictions played a role in more legal trouble down the line, showing how the cycle kept pulling him back into the system again and again. Boosie's life story carries a heavy history too, just with even more years behind it. Born in Baton Rouge on November 14, 1982, Boosie grew up in South Baton Rouge, an area where poverty and violence were everyday realities. His father passed away after an overdose, and several older relatives were already facing their own legal troubles. As a teenager, Boosie has described witnessing serious violence around him while trying to survive in that environment. Then in 2009, Baton Rouge police arrested him on narcotics and firearms charges. At the time, he was already on probation, which made the situation even more serious and pushed his legal troubles into an even deeper spotlight. Boosie ended up receiving a 4-year sentence from that situation, but things didn't stop there. While serving time under house arrest conditions later on, he violated the terms after testing positive for marijuana. The judge responded by doubling the punishment, turning that 4-year sentence into 8 years. That decision sent him to Angola, one of the most well-known and toughest prisons in the United States. Boosie remained there from 2009 until March 2014, spending years inside a system that has shaped the lives of many people from Louisiana. While he was incarcerated, he also faced additional charges related to an attempt to bring prohibited substances into the facility. He eventually pled guilty, which added another 8-year sentence. However, those years were set to run concurrently, meaning they didn't extend the amount of time he would actually stay behind bars, though it still added weight to his record. After finally being released, the challenges continued. At one point, he violated parole after testing positive for marijuana again. Instead of returning to prison, he managed to work out a deal that involved fines and probation, but the legal struggles were only part of his story. Boosie had also been dealing with serious health battles for most of his life. He was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was just around 10 years old. Managing a lifelong condition like that while navigating prison time, street pressures, and a demanding music career is no easy task. Then in 2015, another major health scare hit.
And it was hard for me, man. I lost like 25 pounds in like 15, 16 days.
Wow.
Just stressing.
During a routine medical checkup while he was out on parole, doctors discovered stage 1 kidney cancer. Everything moved quickly after that diagnosis. Surgeons removed about 27% of his right kidney. Boosie later spoke openly about how that moment changed his mindset, saying it pushed him to focus more on faith, family, and continuing to fight through whatever life throws his way.
You know, I was stressed out, man, but I had a successful...
Both of these men carry real receipts from the life they've lived. We're talking about serious legal battles, health scares, years behind bars, and long fights with the system. That heavy history is the backdrop behind every word being thrown back and forth between them. So when Boosie says he's worried about Kodak, it's not coming from a random place. It's coming from someone who has real scars from the same kind of struggles. He's lived through prison, courtrooms, and life-threatening health issues. That kind of experience changes how a person sees things. At the same time, when Kodak tells Boosie to stay out of his business, that response also comes from somewhere real. Kodak has been dealing with survival on his own since he was barely a teenager. Growing up fast in a tough environment can make someone protective of their personal battles. Neither man is speaking from a soft perspective, and that's exactly why this conflict is so hard to settle. When you strip away the diss tracks, the heated IG lives, and the viral clips, there's actually a bigger conversation hiding underneath all of it. Hip-hop has been avoiding that conversation for a long time. It's the uncomfortable question about what happens when substance struggles become too visible to ignore. And who in the culture has the right to call it out publicly? Kodak's past struggles with substances have been discussed openly by him before. In 2023, he spoke about dealing with Percocet use and explained that some pills he took had been contaminated, which created even bigger problems for him. He also talked about spending around $350,000 on rehabilitation efforts while trying to get his life back on track. He said part of that motivation came from wanting to do better for his kids. But even with those efforts, the headlines kept coming, the arrests kept stacking up, and the viral moments kept pulling his personal struggles back into the spotlight again and again. No matter what Kodak said in interviews, the narrative around him kept getting louder. Once a certain image sticks online, it spreads fast and people keep repeating it whether the full story is known or not. And honestly, this is one of the traps hip-hop has created for its own artists. The culture often celebrates that fast lifestyle in the music. The partying, the substances, the reckless energy. But then when that same lifestyle starts showing up in real life, everybody suddenly acts shocked. Research has even pointed to how common those themes are. Some studies say around 72% of popular rap songs include at least one reference to substances or alcohol. In certain time periods, rap has even led all major genres, with numbers around 77% of songs mentioning it. So the same fans who stream those tracks, quote the lyrics, and ride around blasting the music are often the first people in the comments when an artist shows up on stage looking off balance or struggling. The culture celebrates the image, then gets surprised when the image turns real. Kodak Black isn't the first artist to get caught in that contradiction, and he definitely won't be the last. Plenty of artists before him have been pulled into that same cycle. Boosie understands that energy better than most. He's been navigating that same culture for decades. So when he saw that viral stage clip from Texas, in his mind, he wasn't just chasing attention online. His reaction came from somewhere more personal. It sounded like anger rooted in recognition.
When I see you looking like you drugging and out your mouth, I get mad. I'm gonna tell you that.
Not sadness, not distant disappointment, but real frustration. The kind of frustration that shows up when you believe someone has real talent and you feel like they're risking everything they worked so hard to build.
I looked at you like, you know, like I am to my generation. Like I am to my generation. That I stand, I looked at you like you is to that generation.
That moment was Boosie putting his full mentorship card on the table. In his mind, he was saying something bigger than just a quick opinion. He was basically telling Kodak, I built something during my era. I stood for certain principles, and I expected you to carry that same kind of responsibility in your generation. To Boosie, watching Kodak stumble around on stage wasn't just a personal moment. He saw it as something bigger for the culture. His thinking was simple. The next generation of artists and fans are watching everything these rappers do. So when a major artist looks like they're losing control in public, Boosie believed it sends the wrong message to everyone coming up behind them. But Kodak heard that whole message and flipped the perspective completely. Not because he rejected the idea of guidance or advice, but because he felt the way Boosie delivered it was wrong. From Kodak's point of view, taking concerns about someone's personal struggles and putting them on Instagram Live isn't mentorship. That's broadcasting it to the world. And once it becomes public like that, it stops feeling like help and starts looking like content. Kodak made it clear he wasn't letting that slide just because it was framed as tough love. That's where the real nerve got hit. Kodak's stance was basically this: if you truly care about me as a person, reach out privately, call my phone, send a message, pull up and talk face to face like real ones handle things. But going live and attaching his name to talk about substances in front of thousands of viewers, Kodak felt that crossed a line. This debate about calling someone out publicly versus privately isn't new in hip-hop either. The culture has seen similar moments before. For example, during the time when Lil Wayne was widely known to be struggling with heavy lean use, most artists chose to stay quiet or speak around the issue instead of calling him out directly by name. For years, the whole world watched Lil Wayne's health struggles play out in public. The same culture that once celebrated his lean references in song after song suddenly went quiet when the real life consequences started showing up. That's what made Boosie's approach stand out. Instead of staying silent like many artists usually do, he chose to say something out loud. Now, whether that move was right or wrong really depends on what side of the code you believe in. Some people believe problems like that should always be handled privately. Others think calling it out publicly might actually force someone to wake up. That divide is exactly where the Kodak and Boosie conflict exploded. But here's where things get complicated. Boosie himself wasn't standing on perfectly clean ground during this whole situation either. In January 2026, in the same month Kodak released Christmas Eve, Boosie was dealing with the outcome of his own federal firearm case. The court ultimately gave him time served along with supervised release and a fine after authorities said he was found with 2 loaded handguns despite being a convicted felon. So at the same time he was speaking about accountability toward Kodak, he was also fighting his own legal situation in public. And Kodak didn't let that point slide for even a second during their live confrontation. He quickly pointed to that contradiction, because the reality is both of these men have lived through serious struggles. Both have made choices that landed them in courtrooms and prison cells, which raises the real question behind this entire clash. When 2 people with heavy pasts collide like this, who really has the authority to step in and tell the other how they should be living?
Yeah, I'm a realist, bro. Like, I'm a realist. So when I tried this out on stage, it was just solely I like how you putting up in the mirror and bashing. So if we're gonna look at the reality of all this now.
The fan reaction lined up exactly along those same fault lines. Supporters of Boosie said he was the only one bold enough to say what everybody else was thinking, but too scared to say out loud. In their eyes, he stepped up like an OG and spoke the truth, even if it made people uncomfortable. But Kodak's supporters saw the situation completely differently. They argued that Boosie looked hypocritical. To them, it didn't make sense for someone dealing with their own federal case to jump on live and call out another rapper's personal struggles in front of the whole internet. And in the end, none of it actually got resolved. There was no sit down, no peace talk, no joint post where both sides said they worked it out. Nothing like that ever happened for the public to see. Boosie stayed firm on everything he said. Kodak kept brushing it off in interviews and online posts. That explosive IG live in March ended without any handshake or real closure, and the tension between them slowly faded back into the background, at least for now. But what the situation really revealed was something deeper. 2 men from similar environments, shaped by the same kind of struggles, yet ending up with completely different views on loyalty, respect, and what being real actually means in this game. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who follows hip-hop culture, and drop a comment below. Whose side are you on in this situation, Boosie or Kodak? Let's talk about it.